All right, on to show and tell. Does anyone have something to show? I'll do it in order on the screen like I did before. Unfortunately, last time the order kind of got shuffled partway through, so hopefully that doesn't happen. Rylan, you're in the upper left on my screen, so do you want to go first? I'm going to mute everyone so that Rylan's picture stays on top. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that.
Hey, Greg.
Yep.
If you go to Rylan's name and you right click, and you go spotlight, no matter who else is making noise, it'll stay on him.
All right, cool, got it.
The hostess. Okay, well this is good. I can see pretty good, but been working on the mast. I think I told everybody about I started with square stock, and I finally found it was easier to take my plane, my little miniature block plane, and get it down to an octagon, and then from there I started scraping, and then finally I did chuck it in the grill just to fine sand it around, but it sure speeded up the process of making a round mast and all. But I've put some you can't really see them right here, but I put some iron bands up here, and that is really just chart tape, and I was able to let's see. I finished everything else right here. So this is the first piece I started, and I worked my way up and did my mast. The last did step the mast, and now I'm working on hooks. I did find a really nice website that a girl on Model Ship World, she puts she's building the Pinky, the Glad Tidings Pinky, and she's got some excellent information on making hooks and things like that. So it really that I'm going to be going back and forth to that website a lot, because that's exactly what I'm working on right now. So that's where I'm at.
All right, I still have nothing. How about you, John or Sean?
Yeah, we got some stuff. We'll go first. We're gonna try this. I also have.
You have to, Greg. You have to unspotlight Rylan.
I was in the process. I think I've just done it.
Okay. I also am on with my cell phone. Can you go to that one? Spotlight that one instead.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Let's try this. See if we get better results. So.
I'm getting dizzy.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So
No, really.
this Dremel stand came to us by way of Charles Landrum, and it was a total wreck, and it was completely frozen. And he said, "See what you can do with it." So I played with it. I was able to get the table to raise and lower, and all the other adjustments. I added a couple of wing nuts right here, and it's going to make a nice addition to the auction, I believe. The Dremel will not come with it. And then over here, you can see where I've been starting to work on deck houses pieces for the revenue cutter, the Tuscarora. Very, very beginning stages, not much done. And that's really all I've got to show. Now I'll hand the phone over to Sean.
So I was asked what I've been doing with my time since I haven't been on the meetings for a while. So the last couple weeks, after I finished the honeydew list around the house, I purchased a kit from Model Shipways of the siren. And so I've started put the frames together, the filler blocks. I'm now starting on the sills. I got everything roughed in for the sills. My only issue is right now is it's taking quite a bit of time to sand the inside of the sills, the inboard portions of the sills. That's been a little bit of a trick because they're pretty much right up against where the deck will be, and so it's been a little difficult in trying to do that. So that's going to take quite a bit of time to go do that, and then I'll start on the lintels and then framing in the actual gun ports once it's done. But been spending a lot of time, like Rollins said, on model shipways, model shipways, and trying to look at some of the other builds that I've seen. And one of the lessons learned that they mentioned was to drill out or cut out the slots for the mast prior to doing all the framing. And in my excitement to build it, I completely forgot to go do that. So now I have to make some guide blocks to put together, and then go and drill the masts, the holes for the masts now after the fact. It would have been a lot easier if I had done it while the bulkhead was, or the keel frame was flat. The other thing that, in all the models that I've ever done, and I've always been taught, is figure out how you're going to display your model first, and then put the holes in, or how you're going to mount it first before you get too far along. That was another lesson that I completely ignored on my start of my build. So now I have to go back and rethink how I want to display it later, and put that in now before I get too much further on. But that's my project going forward right now.
Looks nice.
Thank you.
All right, I've had change of heart. I'm going to go ahead and show the same thing over again, even though it hasn't changed much. This is my heel drifter. Nope, and kittens. All right, so that's pretty much the way it was last time you saw it. I was working on this portion, trying to get the shape of the bow correct. Once I had that, I needed to make sure it was symmetrical. So I tried various ways of doing that. The problem was getting the templates to be in the correct position, not warped and whatever. So I eventually ended up putting these different levels in. And on the good side, I made an oversized template and then just glued little tabs along the shape. And then, but the tabs are offset by the thickness of the cardboard, so I would retrace it on a fresh sheet so that it was a nice piece, and then I could move it from one side to the other and basically insert it and make sure that, I shine a light through the backside and make sure that it was, sorry about the wobbling video, I'm not watching what I'm doing. So I've got both sides of the bow correct, and now I'm working on the stern. That side is nearly right, and then I'll use the same method to transfer it to the other side, and then I'll finally get to planking, and I'll actually start looking like a boat. And I have my helpers. So I'm not spending enough time on it, but it is actually slowly making progress. All right, Joshua, anything you're going to show us today?
Yeah, can you spotlight my cell phone after you let it in?
Oh, okay. Yep.
All right, cool.
And which
And
one? That's
I'm
the
gonna,
one, I guess. That one?
yeah, but I'm gonna not do the audio because I don't want to get the. All right, cool. and then I'm gonna flip it around. So I'll try to make this as smooth as possible. So I am currently working on the masts for my 150 scale Black Pearl. I'm using the plans from the Anatomy of a Ship, Royal Caroline, because the kit didn't really provide for realistic rigging and masting. So basically at this point, this is all scratch build, and I'm working my way up. I turned all my spars, and now my next step is to basically get all the hardware on them and start dry fitting them to the mast and just getting all the rigging set up. That's mostly what I've been doing. And I've been using Chuck's serving machine. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I've hooked it up to a drill, and that makes it go a lot faster than trying to get there. So that's basically what I've been working on. Oh, and also I've been functioning as an adoption agency for ship models. Let me see if I can pull up a picture for it real quick. We got reached out to by a woman whose father-in-law passed away, and he had like 13 model ships that needed to be rehomed. So I went and collected them, and I've been finding new homes for them. That's the other thing I've been up to. So I don't know that I have a picture of it. Anyway, that's what I've been up to.
Thanks, Josh. Tom, you gonna show us anything today?
Sure. All right, so let me turn the camera around. Okay.
I don't have it.
Okay, and that's it.
That's the reason.
Okay. All right. So what I've been working on, and I got to do this right. Okay, so this here is a jig that I use, and this was in a nautical research journal on how to make this jig. I cobbled this together out of basswood and some fur that I had laying in the just laying around. It took me about an hour to do. And what you see here, okay, that there is the 4 gallant yard arm, and this here is the 4 gallant sail. And that's the next thing that I have to do for this model here of the Liverpool. And that's basically it. If you could see, I've got everything on there now. I've got the main gallant. I have to put the mizzen gallant yard arm. I'm just going to furl the sail on, and I'm going to set the 4 gallant. I managed to get the jib to have some billow to it, and I have a little trick that I use to do that, and someday I'll explain to you what it is. Okay. This is my shop. In the background, you could see my oscillating sand, my oscillating spindle sander, and my Excalibur scroll saw. And over here, I have my shear line lathe, 17-inch bed, and my model machines area here with my table saw, disc sander, and thickness sander. And I also have an unused, never used model model machines rope walk, if anybody's interested, at a very, very good price. And this is my drill press that used to be available from Preac, and behind it is a Proxon mill. And so that's the shop. That's what I'm doing.
I wouldn't find that little one that they got.
Switch the camera around again.
Oh,
Yep.
humidity.
Hang on, got to switch the camera again. Why is it not doing that? Oh, there it is. Okay.
His email address is in the meeting invite.
Okay. So I'm back. So anyway, you know, the Liverpool's taken a long, long time, and I want to be finished with it. Frankly, I have to do 3 anchors. I have to finish up the boats, which I'll talk about later. I've literally been working on this model for over 20 years. Okay, not consistently. I've done other things in the meantime, but I just want to be done with it. So that brings me to what I want to do next. And that's what I'm hoping some of you experts can help me with, because I really want to learn how to do airbrushing, and I want to learn how to do camouflage. And I have a mess of resin kits. I want to try one, start small. I want to learn how to make convincing water. And so I have a bunch of kits that I got at real good prices. That I got for real good prices. I'm not going to say what they were, okay? And I'm going to probably start with a destroyer, and work from there. I got a bunch of stuff, and I also have some. They're all 1/350. I also have a King George V and a Prince of Wales. So I'm not, you know. But the bottom line is that I want to do something different with my next one out, but it's not going to take 20 years. I enjoy sailing Navy. I enjoy doing them. I've done several of them, but I need to do something that I get a little bit better progress at. So I'm going to take a little bit of a hiatus. It won't be for 20 years, I hope. Anyway, that's all I got.
Charles Landrum is our airbrushing and water expert.
Okay.
He has joined us online in the past. He's not here today, but I'm just going to take a second to show you a couple of his.
Charles Landrum.
Hey, Tom, another good resource is the Delaware Valley scale, the Plastic Ship Model Club in Delaware Valley Scale Model Club. That's all they do, man. Is, you know, they put these plastic models together, but it's all in like the paint work that they do. And it's a whole nother sort of world of, you know, some of the techniques that they have to have chipping or show wear or, you know, certain shadowing, and really good tips in there from some of those guys. And one of them that I found really interesting, I'll just share really quickly, is, you know, they suggest painting the shadows. Like if you paint a ship uniformly gray, right, you're not going to ever have enough lighting to have shadow on the ship like you would in real life. So he's like, you know, you have to kind of think about where would shadows really be and actually paint them in the model to give it more of a 3D effect, which I found to be a really interesting suggestion and not exactly intuitive.
Thanks, Josh. I'm looking at the Landrum models. Very nice.
There's one that so there's only one in. That one barely shows any water. He's done a diorama that was at an IPMS show a few years back, and I thought I had included that here, and I don't have it. So that's going to go on my to-do list. But it was really cool. It was a German ship at anchor. I think it was supposed to be in a Norwegian fjord or whatever, but he had like floating sheets of ice and all that kind of stuff. It was well done. But I can't get to that picture quickly enough. It's buried somewhere on my computer.
Does he use resin at all?
I'm pretty sure, but I don't really know.
Right.
We'd have to talk to him.
Okay. Anyway. Well, thanks for that, Greg. I appreciate it. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Gene,
Yes,
gonna show anything today?
sure. I have a few things. Let me go and see. Well, you got to enable my sharing there, dude.
Okay. There you go.
All right, let's see if this works. There we go. Well, that last month's episode, I'll do a brief recap. I had completed the hull and was moving on to the superstructure. I constructed a paper mock-up of the superstructure to test the fit of my artwork that I was going to cut in brass, hence all the panel lines, the doors, and all that. My initial reaction to doing this all in brass was probably a little premature. A little ambitious. There's my artwork and the brass pieces for the bulwarks and the decks that I had cut. And my intention was to solder this together as one unit. Well, unless you have drawings that are absolutely precise and of the same generation, same source, there's going to be minor inconsistencies, and of course, then runs the problem of the pieces fitting together properly. I started to do that with the bridge, and I got about this far before I realized that it's not going to work, because there were just such minor differences and problems with fit that it was difficult to get it to work smoothly. And there was no adjustment. You can't adjust the brass once you've got it soldered. So I abandoned the idea of doing it all in brass, and instead decided to use some of the brass components over a wood base, mainly the bulwarks, some of the sponsons, certainly the gun tub shields, and so forth. And here you can see some of the brass pieces fitted against the paper mock-up just for fit. So I went through some brass, but I can always repurpose them for other pieces, for other purposes. And that was the. I still have that as a testament to a failed attempt. But hey, 2 steps forward, 3 back, and that's how you make progress, I guess. So I opted for a more traditional approach, wood. Wood is so much easier to work with, as you well know. You can adjust it, you can make it and beat it to shape much more easily. So this was the major portion of the superstructure in basswood. And then it's all primed up here. And what I did was use some of the brass from the deck and so forth for the overhangs and the sponsons, because these were structures that were going to require some strength and would not hold up in plastic or brass. So those were some of the components I saved from my brass work. Here's the breakwater with some of the structural pieces in. This is the rear 40 gun tub shield, bent to shape and ready for some of the structural components. These are some of the other sponson brass, and then I ended up soldering all of these to the overhang brass deck parts that were glued to the wood deck. So once soldered together, they form a very, very rigid and strong structure. And here is part of one of the 20 millimeter shields having its internal braces soldered in. One of the failures I had with the first attempt to solder the superstructure together, not only was the minor fitting issues, but I was using the wrong kind of soldering tool. I went out and bought a larger soldering iron I think it was I don't know. Anyway, it was inadequate. And I was not able to apply enough heat to a small enough area without affecting greater areas. And of course, with the brass pieces you saw, they're huge. So it acted like a great heat sink. So that was problematic. I have a resistance solder, which is up to, I think it's a 250 watt. And it will put a point of heat that will melt the brass if you're not careful. So that way I was able to just run a bead of solder very quickly without affecting any neighboring pieces. So it's almost like welding. You just hit it at one end and just drag the tip through it, and it just works like butter. Perhaps if I had used that on the larger pieces, I would have had more success other than the minor fitting issues. Here's the forward 40 tub shield, complete, primed, and ready to be installed. And there it is, with some of the other shields kind of fitted in position. And I had tabs, I had tabs set in the deck so that the shields would have something to anchor to. And then this section that's overhanging is made of brass, so it was soldered to the shield. So once it's on, it's there to stay. And here's some of the here's the aft tub again. And one of the benefits of soldering is you get this slight little kind of almost like a
Little fillet
effect. And when with priming and sanding, you can mute that effect down a little bit, but it gives you kind of the effect of a little bit of ball canning. It's not a smooth, round tub. There's some of the other shields being fitted. Moving on up to the flying bridge, this was a component, again, encompassing some of the components that I had previously etched, soldered together, and then fitted to the bridge area, as you can see there. And so it adds a nice, well, the effect of having very thin brass too mimics the steel. I mean, you can't get that in plastic. And the plastic would just be too thin at this point to have any chance of surviving. So that's why I elected to do brass. And once faired in, it just all comes together. So that's the elevated wood grating, which I etched in brass and fitted in.
Beautiful work.
So it's a hybrid of brass and wood, and this is the kind of the superstructure, kind of all primed and ready for further detailing. At this point, the whole superstructure was still not attached to the deck. I wanted to keep it off because I had to do additional work underneath the sponsons, adding in the structural components and things before I glued it down to the deck, because they would be more difficult to paint and work on with it all together. Here I'm laying out, excuse me, some of the panels. I intend to apply an Archer decal. What is it? The weld lines. I'm going to add all the weld lines to the deck and structures. So I'm laying out the panels here, which I derived from blueprints and things that I had at my disposal. And you can see here the expansion joint, which will be in that location, and some of the vent holes and access points, which will be cut out. That's the aft gun sight or gun director. tower, and it's all in brass too. And as I said, once I had the superstructure completed, I then fitted out the underneath portions of the sponsons and then pre-painted them so that it would be easier to glue the deck down and have that portion complete because it would be difficult to paint that once I had the deck down. And then at this point, I then secured the deck to the hull. Again, up on the flying bridge, another component, pre-painted areas that were going to be difficult to paint once it's all tied together.
Gene, is that airbrushed?
Yeah, and I'm using a new product which I've never used before, and I'm not really sure how happy I am with it. True Color Paint. They're online. They have a whole line of military colors, naval colors, and so forth. It's an acetone-based paint, and it flows very nicely. But the problem, and it was my issue, was the primer I used. I used an enamel primer, and if you're not careful, it'll craze because the acetone will if you lay it down too thickly, will re-dissolve the primer, and then you'll get this crazing effect. And so, but if you lay it down lightly and let it, in thinner coats, like you're really supposed to anyway. But I'm always in a hurry, and I always like to slather it on thick. So, it's something I need to really learn how to use that paint more than it is the product. But it's a great color line they have. It might be worth looking into. More designed for the plastic modelers.
Gene, for soldering, did you ever try one of these cold heat?
No, I haven't.
It is in fact resistant soldering. Uses 4 AA batteries.
Right.
And for what you're doing, probably doesn't give enough of a spark. But for doing small fittings and stuff, works like a charm for me.
Yeah. I have a American Beauty unit, and I think it's a 250 watt. So I just crank it right on up. I mean, if you dwell too long, you'll melt the brass. So
yeah, it can be turned down. I have the same one. If you're doing smaller, delicate stuff, it can be turned down.
But I like the way it just kind of gets the juices flowing, and then you just drag it, and it just makes a nice bead of almost like welding, and it's very focused. So you get a lot of heat in a very small area. So you're not desoldering and heating up the whole room with a standard kind of soldering gun.
Gotcha.
What Tom showed is a good lower cost option if all you're doing is the lighter stuff. But if you already have the bigger unit, then you wouldn't want both.
Okay, bigger's better. Bigger's always better. It's pretty much as it stands as of yesterday. I still have to put secure the side bulwark down to the deck, but the main deck is now one piece with the hull. I've got it all puttied in. At this point, it's now a matter of just going in and redoing all the details. I started to put the beading around some of the openings, and I will have to do that around all the gun tubs. Oh, and there's the Olympia kind of peeking out from behind.
What do you use for beading?
Just plastic rod, like 20 thousandths rod, and I just super glue it around on the edge, and it works very nicely. And once it's painted, you'll never see the difference.
And what kind of putty are you using?
I just use a automotive glazing putty.
Okay.
For larger areas, if there's a big error, I'll use Bondo, as a filler between the brass. Now on this particular hall, the hall section in the back here, I used the original brass bulwarks, and you can see some of the door cutouts and things that originally were there. So that's a surface that doesn't need to be prepped. Other areas I left wood and primed and sanded the heck out of it. But most of the bulwarks and things, and certainly the gun tubs, are all of brass.
Do you have any problems with the paint and the solder, like soldering the flux? Like,
No,
do you have to?
no, because I mean, the secret to good soldering is cleanup.
Mhm.
You know, it looks ugly when you first solder, but then I grind it down, take a wire, brush it down in the Dremel, and smooth it out, and then I soak it in acetone to get all the flux off. And then once it's cleaned off, I prime it, and I've never had any issues at all. But cleanup is key. Not only to get the solder off, but also to get all the, like you said, the resin and the flux and all. That's the inside structural components of one of the breakwater bulwarks, I guess. And this just needs to be secured to the deck now. And then I can move on to the next. And that's the DE as of today. I'm going to start on the, like I said, all the panel lines and so forth, and then move on to the hull and get the panels on the hull done, and then move on to the little parts. So there it is.
Beautiful. What ship is that again?
It's a Butler class destroyer escort. It's the Kendall Campbell 443. It was my wife's father's boat during the war. I had built it previously in 1/8 inch scale, but I needed it bigger. So there you are.
I love that scale.
Yeah, it's 1/4 inch scale, and well, this is 1/4 inch. The other one was 1/8 inch. And I've invested heavily in some 3D parts. Perhaps next month I'll show you some of the parts that I had gotten. Phenomenal pieces. Just they're little jewels and hearts in their own right. So that's most of the armament will be that. I'm not crazy enough to start building all those little parts. I want to get this thing done this century. All righty.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Gene. Let's see. I'm guessing Tom doesn't have anything. We'd be on to Dave then.
So I was going to try the thing with my phone if you can let it in, Greg, and someone may have to talk me in through turning the camera around. Otherwise, I can just hold it up to the screen.
Okay. Are you already in, or
Because I'm meeting host will let me in soon.
I don't see I'm not being prompted yet. Hold on.
Okay. Well, I'll just do it. I'll just hold it up then. So
Hey,
anyways,
do you know how to get to the waiting room if you're not prompted?
I don't. Let me just hold it up to the screen. That'll work fine.
All right.
So workshop's open again after floor painting and asbestos removal. And I've done a little bit of work. I've got a center board now, center board case, mass step glued in. And then the thing I've been struggling with is I've started to put the frames in. They are on the plans lined up with the station lines, which probably isn't where they belong. They were added after this was built over a mold, and they were added after. So I'm not real happy with the spacing. At the same time, almost all of them are invisible after the deck's put in, so I may not worry too much about it. And the next project is building the curved stern. So anyways, that's where things are at.
All right, cool.
Looks nice.
I'm still bothered that I can't get to the waiting room to let you in. I should know how to do that.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. I actually turned that feature off for our meetings. Because I don't know if I'll be on time, and I'd rather just people be able to get in and start conversating.
Yeah, we had one person crash our last meeting.
Oh, okay.
And you're required to have, I guess it's either you're required to have a password or a waiting room. I guess we don't need both. And we have a password, so I could disable it next time. But yeah, it just bugs me that I can't find how to find it. Anyway, we'll forget that and move on. Dennis, are you sharing anything today? Nope. All right. Gene? Mr. Andes? Nope. Stuart? You're muted, Stuart. I think you just hit the space bar if you want to quickly unmute. Still can't hear you. You wag your head if you don't have something to show. No, oh, there you go.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I feel like I'm being outclassed here, but I want to bring up, show you what I'm doing on my little scratch built model. I'll have to hold it up, but you can
Looks
see
great.
See that?
Great.
I'm calling this an 18th century Mediterranean merchant vessel. It's approximately 1/4 inch scale. I've got the hull done. I've got the deck. I've got to start now on some of the deck furniture. And of course, all the masting is yet to go. I intend to build it to show what it looked like in a well-used and rundown condition. And I got a good start at that. It looks run down already. So that's about all I have on it, and more in the future, I hope.
I wouldn't say you're outclassed. It looks better than my bones that have just remained stagnant for months.
So Stuart, is that your own design then?
Partly. I started with the using the hull form of a previous kit that I had built, the HMS Revulsion. That's the basic form of the hull. And then I have used some sketches that I got on a particular vessel to modify it. And I'm looking for additional details now.
All right. Thank
It'll
you.
be kind of a hybrid model.
Kit bashing. That's what my uncle used to do with all of his cars. He never sent anything out of the box. It was always something coupled together.
Well, this is no kit.
Yeah.
Depth charges. I'll let you have some.
Hank, you have something today? You're muted. Hank, you're muted.
I put my cursor over there earlier to unmute, and then I forgot about it. I don't have a show today, but I have a tell.
The audio is really, really messed up. So try again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's just a lot of static. But you said you just had a quick tell. Let's give it a go.
Okay. I mentioned a couple months ago that I'm having trouble with the gunport covers for vehicles because I had inadvertently thrown out some pieces that I didn't know I was supposed to keep. So I got back up with the manufacturer through email, and they were going to send me some parts. And they say it may take a little longer because it's COVID. Well, I never hear from them. I figured they just blew me off. So I found a workaround and got the gunports done. A couple of weeks ago, I get this tube in the mail. It's a bulwarks that have the parts I needed, and the date on the shipping date on it was March 10th. So it took 5 months to get a package from Spain to the beach. Last year, when I bought the kit from Cornwall in England, it took like 2 weeks to get here. So it's just
All right, so that audio was really garbled. What I got out of it was that you tried to order some things. They said there was going to be a big delay. You found a workaround, and then a tube showed up. And then after that, I was kind of lost. But
It was like, it took like 5 months to get something from overseas to here.
oh my goodness, yeah.
And I also went to Hobby Town, J&D to try and get some paints, and they were really low. Their racks were really low, so I asked them if they were going to be restocking. They said they wish they could. A lot of these paints come from China, and there's just nothing coming through right now. And they're even having trouble getting a lot of their RC stuff and the kits that they sell there and everything. Delays.
Okay, well, good luck in the future. I hope you're able to get your parts. How about you, Bill?
Hear me okay, Greg?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Let me just switch the camera here. I about 2 years, two and change years it took. I enjoyed the project, got a lot of help from my friends. This was my first attempt at a semi-scratch plank on bulkhead model. So
We lost you, Bill.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're having some bandwidth issues all around. While we wait for Bill to come back, Pat, do you have anything to show? You're muted also. You have to unmute, Pat. All right, so this is not going well.
yeah, I got some poor bandwidth up here. I apologize. Why don't you just move on, Greg?
All right, thanks, Bill. Hey, oh, Pat's unmuted now. All right.
Okay, working on this absolute is about to make me go crazy. It's the rattlesnake. I have worked on it, and I found out of one thing is all the instructions and everything seems to be you put in all the instructions and then you go to hook it up and everything's in the way. So I've had to redo all kinds of stuff, try to figure this Italian out, and but it is coming along, but it's like Nightmare on Elm Street, but I hope one of these days I will get it done, even though I am so far behind in boat building. But I'm not going to let it get to me. I'll work on it. Doesn't look probably the greatest in the world, but I'm trying. That's all I have.
Is that a
Pat
mammalian kit?
looks fantastic. It really does.
Well, that and you'll have learned a foreign language by the time you're done. So, you know, bonus.
My language has changed. My wife told me that. So.
You need to learn some good choice words in Italian.
No, I can't.
How about you, Don?
I've got a couple things I'm working on. Got a little box stern. Starting to add the details to it. I've got to put the motor box in and the door on the house and some details inside the house. I'll stick a wheel in there. The boat I'm using as a model, it's kind of sparse. The house is kind of Spartan. The captain told me he doesn't make any money sitting on his rear end in the house. In fact, when he's driving the boat, if he wants to sit down, he's got a stool in there. He doesn't even have any place to sit. But this one here is for me for fun.
I was just about to ask if that was for you or for a museum.
Yeah, this one's for me. And it's a learning experience. This is I had a basic design and it matched the boat I was using for reference. And I milled all the lumber. I used a little bit of pre-cut stuff, but for the most part, I've milled everything. Bottom's cross-planked, bow staved up and through here. And then the hull is planked as well. It's pretty much built the same way you would have built an original wooden dead rise boat. I'm also building one for the Matthews Maritime Foundation that we're going to raffle off. I got a little crazy here. We're going to donate the money to the local hospital. We hope to raise a couple grand with this when I finally get it complete to go to raffle. It got a little crazy. I don't know what possessed me to do this. I actually started this last fall when my mother-in-law was here, and she's recently passed, and they took care of her in the hospital. So I figured this might be a good way to show some appreciation to the hospital. So that was the plan, and we're going to do it in conjunction with the, like I say, the Matthews Maritime Foundation. But she's coming along. I'm starting to add some of the smaller components, motor box and things like that. And one of the board members at the foundation, I'm using his boat, Captain Paul, but the house is pretty much a copy off his boat. The boat's very similar to his. I'm waiting on, I tried my hand at making metal props out of sheet metal. I wasn't satisfied, so I purchased some from Blue Jacket and a couple cleats, but most of these boats don't have a whole lot in the way of cleats. There might be knight's heads or some other wooden posts in them. Most of them don't have anchors to keep the anchor in the house because they're always moving unless they anchor on an oyster bed or something like that. So this one's coming along, and again, she's cross-planked. And the bow stayed. You can't see too much of the bow. I've got tape on some stuff. I dropped this one and had to make a small repair. But it's coming along, and I'm pretty much pleased with the results. I'm currently working on the house. Not happy with the materials I've experimented with for windows. The other little boat, the guy literally has plexiglass that's so crazed over, it's hard to see through. So I use the bottom of a salad container from the grocery store that simulates the plexiglass fairly well. But you know, those are what I'm working on, and then outfitting them with things, small bushel baskets for crabs or oysters or what have you. A friend of mine told me where to get the pattern. The pattern comes from the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum in St. Michael's. Their modeling group has the pattern for this basket. So all you do is print it out on cardstock and take the X-Acto knife to it. So it makes a fairly good example of the basket. I've got a bunch of them here. Whoops.
Gene would have etched those in brass, but I like it.
Well, I was thinking about cutting them in thin wood. I tried that and I wasn't happy with the results. I tried one in styrene that actually worked kind of okay, but the cardstock paints better than the styrene if you want to weather the basket. And I've got cardstock that almost simulates wood, but yeah, putting these things together gets a little frustrating too. You start getting glue everywhere where you don't want it.
Those will be a really good addition to your model, I think.
Yeah, because I'm going to rig one of them up as a trot liner, and building oyster tongs through the other one. That's getting a little crazy trying to solder the brass wire and stuff, but I'll get it. That's what I got.
Very nice.
All right, thank you.
You're muted, Fred.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I had some F-22s going by and I muted and forgot all about that. Yeah, so I think we've gotten everyone. Anything else? Looks like one or two people may have dropped out. Okay, I'm gonna stop and start the recording again, and we're gonna get a demo on making small boats from Tom.
Oh, cool.